Hello and welcome to this quick tutorial about a meatloaf I made tonight. Just basically took a core recipe and then doctored it up. I'm going to go ahead and take a jalapeno coring tool here and pull the core out of these jalapenos. We're not really that concerned about the seeds in our house. We like spicy food. So we're going to go ahead and just pull these cores out and get them in the process as soon as we can. I've already got my grill warming up as we speak. So I'm going to go ahead and stuff some cheese in these jalapeno carcasses here. Colby pepper jack, which is one of my wife's favorites. Not a whole lot of rhyme or reason, isn't a real process here. We're just going to be stuffing the cheese here in the carcass of the jalapenos. I am neither a chef nor really any kind of measure of of a decent cook, but what I lack in talent I make up for in dogged stubbornness. So I'm just going to keep stuffing the cheese here in these jalapenos, get that in there nice and tight, and get this lined up. What we're going to do is we're actually going to smoke these ahead of time, and that will aid in the cooking process, kind of mellow the jalapeno, give them a nice smoky flavor here, melt the cheese inside them, of course, and also give them a better texture. I'm going to use some 80/20 ground beef. This is about a 3-pound package. I'm only going to use about 2.5 of it, maybe. Going to dice some onion up. My wife actually prefers larger chunks of onion, so I'm not going to finely mince this. It's going to be more of a bigger chunk type scenario. But again, do this to flavor however you like. It's probably about a solid 3/4 of a cup, maybe a cup of onion. I don't know. Not super diligent about measuring stuff around here. A little sprinkle of rub. Your favorite seasoning, rub seasoning. I like to just coat the onions in this for a little bit of extra flair. Then we're going to go ahead and put in 2 heaping tablespoons of minced garlic. It's honestly probably even more than that. Again, we are not very scientific with the measuring around here. It's a dash of this, a splash of that, and so on. Going to throw in some of our hamburger here, start the mixing process. A little bit more rub seasoning, put that into the meat as well. 2 eggs. And some panko bread crumbs. This is about probably 3/4 of a cup-ish. Famous Dave's barbecue sauce, one of my favorite barbecue sauces. I'm going to use this anytime I need Worcestershire or ketchup, which typically meatloaf recipes call for at this stage, but I'm going to use a little splash of my Famous Dave's Devil Spit instead. Going to go ahead and mix this around. Now you do want to be careful with this. Don't overwork the hamburger. If you overwork the hamburger, what will end up happening is it'll break down too fast, and it won't want to stay together. It'll actually start to want to break apart and not be very malleable when you go to form it in the press. So, got our center cut bacon out. This is some thick cut bacon. Pretty decent stuff. Now, I put a little bit of rub seasoning in the bottom of this pan, and it's not for just seasoning reasons. It's actually because when we flip this meatloaf over, if we just put bacon straight in this pan, sometimes the bacon's going to have a tendency to stick to the pan, which will undo your bacon weave, or at the very least make it not as pretty. And we want a real nice clean release from the pan, which is what this rub seasoning does nicely. It kind of reduces that traction coefficient, if you will, with the bacon on the pan. Now we're just going to alternate it, get a little bacon weave going on, a little lattice work. Center it up in the pan here, make sure we're setting ourselves up for a nice flip when this thing does eventually get flipped over, which it will here shortly. Going to take some of our hamburger. Now we're going to aim for about a 30% or a third-ish fill of the pan at this point. 1/4 is not quite enough, and 1/2 is too much. So we're looking for about a 1/3. And again, you can see the big chunks of onions in there. That's my wife's request, but you can mince those tighter to your flavor profile. So once we get a solid bed of hamburger in here, and we're feeling pretty solid that this is a good cap, which is essentially what we're building, I'm going to two knuckle it down here, start building the groove, then turn my knuckle sideways, and really start developing that pocket that we're going to put the jalapeno poppers in, which are now out of the smoker, filled with that cheese. Arrange them to give ourselves some good coverage here. Now I'm going to take some additional cubed pepper jack, just kind of tuck this in for a little bit of extra cheese. My wife is from Wisconsin, so there's no such thing as too much cheese. And we're just basically filling this pocket in the meatloaf. All right, I think we're in decent shape here. So now I'm going to grab another portion of the hamburger. And I want to seal this up. And it's really important that when you put this together, you don't just kind of haphazard put it together. You really got to firmly press it together, because otherwise what will happen is you're just basically making a hamburger sandwich, if you will, and the hamburger is the top bun and the bottom bun, and it won't seal up very well. We're looking for it to seal up and have as little cheese seepage as possible once this thing is nice and pressed together. So we're going to get a nice uniform feel here. And then I'm going to very firmly press this down and make sure that it's really together. Now we flip it over, tappity tap, and there we go. It released from the pan beautifully, exactly like we wanted. Now a little bit more barbecue rub seasoning here on the bacon. I did put this on a small rack just to make it easier to deal with, so I don't have to move the loaf on and off my smoking rack itself. I can just use this small rack to do that. In the smoker it goes. This is about an hour later. Start to see we're starting to get a little bit of that smoke penetration. Now I'm going to start working on sides. We have something we call in our house dirty taters, and what we do is we take some potatoes and we halve them, sometimes quarter them, they cook faster. And then chunks of onion. Again, it's just kind of in our house how we do it. You can do this to flavor, but we like to have the bigger chunks of onion thrown in with the potatoes. There's no rhyme or reason to this. There isn't an exact measurement. There is, you're not going to get, it's got to be 2.5 cups of potatoes for me. It's just going to be basically whatever you throw in the bowl. Then we're going to quarter up some onions, and then maybe cut those quarters in half, get some big chunks in there. Nothing wrong with chunked onion there. Some rice vinegar, the roasted garlic variety, just a splash, give it a little bit of tang. Then we're going to take some of the olive oil, and we're going to take a splash in there. This is going to basically be a binder for the barbecue rub seasoning, or seasoning of your choice that we put in. A little bit of chili oil, nothing wrong with a little bit of heat. Splash of that, which again acts as a binder as well. Crushed red pepper, huge fan of crushed red pepper. Gonna go ahead and put some of that in here as well for a little flavor. And now we're going to go ahead and put our barbecue seasoning, rub seasoning, in with the mix we've created. And now, because it's wet with the oil and the vinegar and everything else, it makes a nice little kind of muddy slurry of potato and onion, right? So it nicely evenly coats everything, which is really really good for the flavor we're trying to build. I did go ahead and half some mushrooms in this as well, which I don't normally do. Turned out fantastic, by the way. We're going to be doing that from now on. 2 hours later, we take a peek. I know that when you're looking, you're not cooking, but I can't help myself. So took a peek, looking good. Go back after we let our dirty taters sit for just a little bit to soak up. Put that in a grill basket. And we're going to go ahead and just tuck this off to the side. Take a peek at the main star of the show here. And off on the side it goes. just to start building up some of that smoke. Typically a tray of potatoes like that's going to be at least an hour and a half smoke. Now for dessert, something new that we did. I've never done it before. Just thought I'd try it out, and it turned out fantastic. Took a pineapple, waited till it was nice and ripe, then shaved it off, exposing the pineapple. I did leave the top on purpose, so it gave me something to hold on to. Otherwise, this is just a giant wet bar of soap, and it's hard to hold on to. So, dash of cinnamon and some sugar. Real simple, just like making cinnamon toast when you're a kid. Mix it up a little bit. I added just a little bit more cinnamon because I wanted it a little bit darker. Then I'm going to throw it in my grilling basket. Again, leaving the top on so I have something to hold on to so this thing doesn't slip out of my hands in the kitchen. And I'm just going to liberally apply the cinnamon sugar all over the pineapple on all sides, making a total mess, which is, you know, situation normal. So now we've got this cinnamon sugar well distributed. And it's looking good. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut the top off, stamp it in the sugar that was on the cutting board, give it a quick roll, make sure we got good coverage. Then full commit to the slippery bar of soap that it's going to become now that I've cut the tail end off. Take that, stamp that in the sugar as well. Now we have full coverage all the way around. Throw that in a grill basket. And in the smoker it goes. So we got the pineapple going, we got the dirty taters going, and we've got the main star of the show, who is getting more and more ready. All right, so we cooked to temp, not to time, and we're going to be looking for 165 internal on this. Once we have 165 internal, we can go ahead and slice it open for that first cut, see what we're dealing with here. And looks like we nailed it. Dirty taters through the process. Smoked pineapple with cinnamon was fantastic, highly recommended. Final product. Happy cooking.